Hello, my name is Cheryl Meyer, otherwise known as Cheryl M. Health Muse, and I am a health coach. I want to welcome you to my podcast, It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future-Proof Your Health. This is a weekly show that will share lifestyle changes that you can make to support your health yourself. Why do I want to share this information with you? 7 years ago, after being a business owner for 20 years, I woke up one morning in horrific pain where every bone and every joint in my body hurt. I went to the doctor. She ran lots of tests, and then she ran some more, and then she ran some more, and finally she called me and announced she was going to give me steroids, but there was absolutely nothing wrong with me and I should seek therapy. I knew something was wrong. I hurt. So she told me I would be on steroids for the rest of my life, and I refused that I was going to have a life of pain and pills. So why was I going to take steroids if there was nothing wrong with me? So I dug in and started researching, and I turned my business over to my staff. I found a functional doctor who confirmed that I had autoimmune disease. By making a series of significant lifestyle changes that I could do for myself, 5 years later, I had returned to relative health. The best part is that I am now 70, and I feel better now than I did when I was 50. I no longer hurt, which is huge. I will always have autoimmune disease, but losing the pain has been amazing. I went back to school at 67 and became a health coach because I want to share everything that I learned with others. And I wrote a book called It Feels Good to Feel Good, Learn to Eliminate Toxins, Reduce Inflammation, and Feel Great Again, as the manual I wished that I had had when I got sick, and my book has won 13 awards. So whether you want to future-proof your health and grow old with dignity and grace without dementia and chronic pain and disease, which you don't need to get, or whether or not you already have a chronic condition like autoimmune disease or cancer or heart disease, and you want to learn about what things you can do to improve your long-term health, or whether you want to improve the health of your families and raise healthy children, because 53% of our children have a chronic condition, I look forward to sharing all this information with you. I will tell you, it truly does feel good to feel good, so let's get started. I look forward to having you join me here every week, and I want to give you hope that if you have chronic pain or chronic disease, you can make changes that will improve your health. And if you don't want to go there, you're going to be fine if you listen to the show and put these things into work. I want to give you information so that you can grow old and have a better tomorrow. So thank you for joining me. Let's get started. Hello, welcome to another edition of It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future-Proof Your Health. Well, I've been doing podcasts now for a year and a half, and we've been talking about different subjects where we drill down deep and go into why that area is really important to your health. So I thought I would start off this year, and even though this will actually play in February and later, it is my first podcast of 2022, and I want the best you in 2022. So I want to go through all 45 things that influence how healthy you are and include some things that I have learned since I did my original podcast. What I'm going to do is put into my blog a list of all the different areas that I talked about in this podcast. It's probably going to end up being 2 because I'm always long-winded, but you can actually go to my blog and find other places where you can learn more. As an example, if the subject is stress, I have several blogs on stress and I have another podcast on stress, so I'll list that as resources for you to go to learn more about stress. But we're going to go through the whole list this week and next week so that you get a whole picture of all the different things you can do to future-proof your health and be the healthiest, best you possible for 2022. And I'm going to start off just by giving you a list of the different subjects I'm going to cover in this podcast because it's lengthy, and I want you to know that this is all going to be covered with little tidbits that I have learned in the last year and a half since I've been doing my podcast. The number one most important thing to health is that you need to build a supportive community that enjoys similar healthy habits. There's something called 3 degrees of separation, and who you surround yourself with is who you influence and who influences you. So we're going to talk about that. Number 2 is a tip that I took from the National Geographic Blue Zones, and they believe that it's really important that you get a dog or a cat. It's important to your health because it relaxes you to walk or play with your pet, and they bring you great joy and love. And so it's an element of health that I sometimes think is overlooked. And in the last year and a half, my husband and I have gotten 2 little ginger kitties, and I will admit they have brought us tremendous joy and love. And they make us laugh every day, so I can understand why that's important to health. Number 3, the number one thing that causes death in America is heart disease. I haven't done a podcast on heart disease. I do plan to do one in the next few months. But in the meantime, I just want to share a couple of little tidbits that I've learned about heart health that might make you be cognizant of things that you can do starting today to protect that most important organ in your body, your heart. And again, it all comes back to learning to eat and learning to exercise so that you protect your future health with your heart. Number 4 is your liver. I did 3 podcasts on the liver. You can go back and listen to them. I will list what they are when I do my list of places for additional resources. But the most important thing I want you to remember right now is that the number one cause of heart disease is liver disease. So give your liver tremendous respect. I have learned quite a few new things about the liver, which I want to go over in this podcast. Number 5, please stop eating the standard American diet and start eating real food. What do I mean by real food? I mean real vegetables and fruits of all the colors of the rainbow, because they're loaded with phytonutrients that your body needs to rebuild, and your body is rebuilding every second of every day. Every cell in your body has a different shelf life. And if you're not eating real food and you're only eating the chemicals that come in boxes or that come in the frozen food that the food industry is feeding you, then you are not eating for your future health. So we're going to go over a few things I've learned in addition to the things I have talked about ad infinitum about the importance of eating the rainbow. Number 6, I have not talked about this enough. When you eat your vegetable and your fruit, you must eat it with the fiber. The fiber is really important. When it gets into your gut, it's part of what, your liver's working really hard because it's processing all the toxins that went into your body. And what's going to help your liver get all those toxins out of your body? It's the fiber that you get from your vegetables and your fruit. So make sure, even if you're juicing, juice the whole fruit or vegetable in a food processor or in a blender. If you're only juicing, you're not getting the advantage of the fiber. And it's fine if you juice every once in a while, but you're putting rocket fuel into your body and you're not getting the fiber, which is really important for you to get all those toxins out of your body. So help your liver along and eat your fruits and vegetables with the fiber. Number 7, this goes back to community. Sit down and eat all your meals with family and friends. You need to have community and you need to share your food in love. And your children need to see you sharing your food that you have made with them around the dinner table, and then enjoy sharing your day and its highs and its lows, and laugh at each other and tell stories about each other. That is as important to health as everything else that I'm going to talk about. And I'm really lucky because I grew up in a family where we did sit down together, and my favorite family stories were us making fun of each other and things that we had done over the years and recalling them around the dinner table. Number 8, you need to maintain a healthy weight. Now, if you were like me, you've tried to diet, you've tried to keep your weight at your right weight, and you've maybe been able to do it your whole life, and maybe you've had a hard time. I now run classes to ditch the SAD, the standard American diet, stop eating the crap, the carbonated, artificial, refined, and processed food, and allow your body to return to its healthy weight naturally without dieting. It's a lifestyle change. It is not a situation where you read a New York Times bestseller list, you have your last meal, and then you deprive yourself of eating any foods that you really want yourself to eat so that you can start to lose a couple weights, because that is not sustainable. The way I teach how to get back to your natural weight, you turn back your hunger hormones because you stop eating the standard American diet, and your body, because it's eating real food and it's happy, just starts to go to its natural weight all by itself. And it's really important that you do that. And that is an easy thing to sustain, because once you adopt those healthy habits, they're yours for life. And your body starts feeling so good, you're not willing to give them up. Number 9 is stop eating both real and fake sugar. We have talked about that. I did a whole podcast on sugar. I'll note that in my blog when I post this. But if you need a refresher or you need the new things that I've learned about sugar, then that's going to be an important point for you to listen to. If you are still consuming large amounts of sugar or fake sugar, stop it already. You can have some natural sugar, but you need to stop with all of the genetically modified sugars, and the things that are in processed food are very heavy laden with sugar, and they're very harmful to your body. So you need to kick your sweet tooth and get that under control, because it's not doing your body any favor and it will shorten your life. Number 10, learn to read labels. One of the things I teach in my Ditch the Sad and Stop Eating Crap diet is how to read labels, because there's a lot of information that is dictated, has to go on food, but we're not reading it and we don't know what it's telling us. So learn to read food labels, because that's very important. Number 11, you need quality protein. And that means different things to different people. The same components of a diet are not the same for me as they might be for you. You might have chosen to be vegetarian. You might have chosen to be vegan. I am a pagan, which means I am half paleo and half vegan, but 75% of what I eat, I try to make it plant food, and then I do eat a quality protein source. We've talked about what that means. I'm going to talk about it again in this podcast. Number 12, avoid GMO oils, which are also mostly your omega-6 oils. What you need are omega-3s. Now, omega-6s on its own are not bad, but we're eating them like 20 to 1, and we need to be eating them 1 to 1. And processed food and fast food, whether it's frozen or it's in a box or it's even in a restaurant, because mostly what they're serving you now is processed food as well, they are heavily packed with omega-6 oils. And the other problem with omega-6 oils is they're all genetically modified oils. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to spend some time on why it's important to eat omega-3 oils, because every cell in your body needs it, including your brain. So we're going to concentrate on eating more omega-3s. Number 13, I want you to eat organic as much as possible. And yes, I recognize that it's expensive, but as one expert that I read said, have you priced out cancer lately? Because by eating organic and ditching all the chemicals that they're spraying on factory farmed food, you have a long chance to live a long and happy, healthy life. And if you're eating all that poison with your food, maybe not so much. So concentrate on the dirty dozen, clean 15. It's a list that comes out every year by the Environmental Working Group, and it's ewg.org. I have it on my website. It changes every year, but there are 12 vegetables or fruits that are so dirty that that's where you start spending your organic money, because you really don't want those poisons in your body with your fruit or vegetable. If it's on the clean 15 side, knock yourself out. You can eat it, no problem. Number 14, now whether it's a GMO oil or it's a GMO food, avoid it. We've been through what GMO means. I'm going to review it one more time because it's really critical that you stay away from genetically modified foods, because they either have Bt toxin in them or they have been heavily sprayed with Roundup, which is glyphosate, which we now know by their own records causes cancer. Number 15. Now this one is interesting. I did this probably 5 years ago, and it has helped my husband and I eat smaller meals all the way around. I want you to invest in smaller plates. We eat dinner and breakfast and lunch from our sandwich plates. We usually do not use our big dinner size plates. And why is that? Because we serve ourselves less food, and I want you to learn to stop eating before you get full. And so if you're eating from a sandwich plate, psychologically you're eating a full plate of food, and it's easier to stop when you reach the point of no return. And then number 16 is stop eating when you're 80% full, and we're going to talk about why that's so important. Number 17 is another tip from the Blue Zones, the National Geographic Project. And the Blue Zones, by the way, he started off studying the 5 areas in the world where people lived the longest. And then he came to conclusions, and he has now taken those concepts and taken them out to another 9 locations. And people in those communities are all eating by the Blue Zone principles. They're pretty much the same things that I concluded on my own when I was looking for ways to find my own health. And they're really important because he's got solid research behind why it's so important to eat by these principles. But this one is eat more beans and pulses. They are loaded with fiber. They are super good for you. If you're vegan, you're probably eating a lot of beans and pulses anyway. I don't eat a lot of beans and pulses, but I have started adding more in because I know how good fiber is for my body, and I want you to start adding them in too. And maybe it's a black bean salad that you make to go either as your main course or as a side dish, something that's yummy that also adds all that additional fiber into your diet, which is great. Number 18, the importance of probiotics and prebiotics. We have talked about that in my podcast. I'm going to go through it again because I've learned some new things. Number 19, your gut and how important it is. The functional community believes that disease starts in the gut. And it starts because we don't digest our food properly because of a variety of different things. It could be that we have parasites. It could be that we have too much stress, which is interrupting our digestive process. It could mean that we have way too many toxins in our gut that's just hindering us from digesting that food down to the right size. It could be glyphosate and genetically modified toxins. It could be antibiotics. Lots of things stop us from properly digesting our food, and when that happens, something called leaky gut happens. The food is too big to go through our cell lining of our gut, which is only 1 cell thick. It's a little thin membrane between us and our gut and our blood and our liver. And so it pokes a little hole through, and then our body reacts to it and screams foreigner because it doesn't recognize that oversized food particle, and then it starts to attack it. That's the beginning of autoimmune disease, but it's also the beginning of cancer and heart disease and liver disease and all kinds of problems. So it's important that you digest your food properly, that you take loving care of your gut, and that you make sure that you have the good prebiotics and the probiotics so that you digest your food properly. Number 20, hydrate with water. It is super important that you drink tons of water. I was looking for my water bottle. I carry water with me everywhere I go. I try to drink somewhere around 50 ounces of water a day. The recommendation is half your body weight, but I'm not a small woman, and so I was drinking so much water that I was almost a boat that was going to float away on its own. So my doctor told me to cut it down a little bit. But you need to be drinking 8 ounces of water is not enough. You need to be drinking 50 to 60 ounces of water at a minimum because every cell in your body needs to be nourished and hydrated. So make sure you're drinking water. And that does not mean that you are drinking coffee or pop or fruit juice or some other kind of liquid. I am talking pure water. Your body needs H2O, so make sure that you're drinking enough, and then we'll talk about the other liquids I just mentioned. Number 21, the controversy over gluten. The functional community believes that you should stay away from it altogether, that it causes all kinds of heart problems. I don't seem to be particularly sensitive to it. So I want to talk about gluten because it could be one of the missing links to your health problems, and so it's something you should explore for your own body. Number 22, for God's sakes, stop smoking. When I got autoimmune disease, I had started smoking again after not smoking for 8 years. But I've always, since I was in college, been a bit of a smoker until 10 years ago when I got autoimmune disease and I quit for good. My lungs were fine, and so I thought, whew, I made it through that. I'm not going back. It didn't make me feel good, and so I am no longer a smoker. And I just had a series of tests done, and they consider that if you haven't smoked for 6 months to a year, you're not a smoker because your lungs regenerate and reheal, and all those walls become healthy again. What I didn't know is when we tested me for heavy toxic metals, it was eureka. I had them all, and a lot of them I had because they were in the cigarettes that I was smoking, including cadmium. So you don't want to smoke. That stuff is not good for you. You don't want all those foreign toxins going into your lungs, and they're interrupting everything in your body. So if you're still smoking, give it up already. Number 23 is move. You have to move. You have to do some kind of exercise. Now, I'm a woman who's never liked to exercise. So add some kind of exercise regime into your world. I have started jumping on my mini trampoline, which is a rebounder, because I also have a lymph issue. And one of my upcoming podcasts is going to be on my lymph system because they don't know a whole lot about lymph, but they're all starting to study it because lymph is crucial to your heart, your liver, and every other system in your body. The whole body, if you haven't figured this out, interacts with everything else in your body. So if one part of your system is out of order, it's going to eventually impact every other system in your body. So move. It's important to move. You need to get your heart muscle going. You need to keep the blood flowing to your brain. You need to add movement to your daily regime. Number 24, get outside every single day. Just getting outside is so good for you on so many different levels. Number one, you're probably out in nature, and so just by the awesomeness of nature, you're going to improve your general attitude. By getting outside, you're also walking, hopefully, and getting some kind of exercise. Getting outside, you're also getting vitamin D. And the best way to get vitamin D is not from your milk in a synthetic D2 version. The best way to get your vitamin D is by getting outside into the sunlight. And there are vitamin D3 supplements that you can take, which is the easier form of vitamin D3 for you to utilize. But start with getting outside at least 15 to 30 minutes every day so that you can soak in whatever sun is in your area, even in the winter, and promote your body to make its own vitamin D. Number 25. This one I have never talked about, but it's really important, and that is to be cognizant of your posture. We are sitting more and more every day, and it's important that you make sure that your posture is correct, because believe it or not, all your organs hang off your spine. And so if you're not sitting in a straight line the way your spine is supposed to be, you're not only causing all kinds of issues with your sciatica and things that are coming and pinching nerves and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but you're impacting the organs of your body because they need you to be sitting with good posture and standing with good posture. So we're going to go over that. Number 26, I did a whole podcast on this. I also wrote a whole book on this, which I call The Desktop Guide to Stress. But stress, again, every chronic illness that you might get or that any family member or friend of yours might have has stress as one of the causes. Learning how to identify stress and deal with it every day is a really important component to your health. My stress was so out of control when I got autoimmune disease that I had almost no cortisol left at all. I was borderline Addison's disease. So that was the first thing I did when it was identified that I had autoimmune disease. So we're going to talk a little bit more about stress, even though we've talked about it, because it's that important. Number 27, we have not talked a lot about this, but it's ANTS, A-N-T-S, anxious, negative thoughts. In other words, anxiety. Anxiety also can do your body all kinds of harm. And this is where you have to learn to find your inner champion and drown out your inner critic. And it's important to your long-term physical health. So we'll talk about that. Number 28, the practice of gratitude. Believe it or not, gratitude and the practice of gratitude is good for your heart. It's good for your brain. It's good for your life. If you start practicing gratitude every morning and finding the positive in what happened in your life the day before or the week before and celebrating it, you'll start every day off on a positive foot, which means that you will create a more positive life. You're going to manifest more positivity just by noticing all the good things that are happening in your life. So we're going to talk about the health benefits of gratitude. Number 29, know and nurture your purpose. We all are here for a reason, no matter what it is that you believe or how spiritual or religious you are. I found my purpose when I got sick with autoimmune disease. My purpose is to share everything I'm learning about health with all of you. So find your purpose, because that's where your passion is. And by having that passion and that purpose, you will live a much happier and more fulfilled life, which is good for your long-term health. Number 30 is another one from the Blue Zones, and that's to learn how to downshift at the end of every day. And that one I'm going to wait and we'll talk about when I get to it in this podcast as a category. Part of downshifting is that the Blue Zones, Dan Buettner recommends that at 5, you should enjoy a glass of wine. Now, we talked about drinking. Women are supposed to only have 1 glass of any kind of alcohol a day, and men can have 2 glasses of some kind of alcohol a day. And when I say enjoy wine at 5, it doesn't mean that you have to do that every day, but learning how to downshift and utilizing that as one of your tools is a very healthy thing. Number 32, sleep. Last year, a very important study came out from the University of California at Berkeley about the importance of sleep and getting 7 continuous hours. I did do a podcast on this, and actually I think I did 2, so we'll list that in my blog with additional information, but we're going to go over it again, because that 7th hour is when your brain sweeps out all the plaque that creates dementia. And so since I want you to live long and thrive, and understand I'm 73, so keeping my brain is taking on greater importance, we're going to talk about the importance of sleep. Number 33, get an electric air purifier in your living space. And the 2 rooms that you spend the most time in is where you set up your electric air purifier. The estimate is that our indoor air is something like 30 times more toxic than the outdoor air. And remember, I live in Los Angeles, so that's a big statement. But you want to keep the air inside your home, especially where you spend a lot of time. And for us, that's our living room where we relax at night and our bedroom where we sleep at night. Those are the two rooms where we have air purifiers because that way the air purifier is getting all the toxins out of the air so that you're not getting them in your body. Number 34, since we're talking about toxins, is look up all the ingredients in your cleaning supplies and trade whatever you're using for lesser toxic items. Again, I have some blog information on cleaners that you can look up, and I'll reference it in my table of contents for this podcast so that you have more information. Number 35, also on the subject of toxicity, is personal care products. Now, understand my very first book that I wrote was about all the toxins that I cleaned up in my life. And in this, I share how I researched at ewg.org, what I found, what items were super toxic in my life, and what I traded them for. Because every item that you trade for a lower toxic item is one step closer to health. So be very cognizant of where the toxins are that are poisoning you in your everyday life. And one of them, the very first thing I looked up, were my cosmetics, which were a 9 on a 10-point scale. In other words, I was poisoning myself right through my skin, which is my largest organ. Personal care products are only monitored by the company that manufactures them. There are very few rules about your personal care products. So you're responsible to look up what's in the products that you're using. 10 years ago when I started, it was very hard to find clean cosmetics and clean lotions and clean bubble baths and all that stuff. Now there are a lot of choices, so you get to have a lot of choices as you clean up, but make sure you know what you're putting on your skin because your skin is your largest organ and you don't want to be poisoning yourself right through it. Number 36 is toxin awareness in general. Whether it's how you're storing your food and you don't want to be storing it in plastic, or the pots and pans that you're using, or the wrap that you're using around your foods when you're microwaving it, heaven forbid that it's a plastic wrap, because that's off-gassing toxins and putting toxins into your food. I want you to build up a huge awareness about toxins. If you want to look them all up on your own and educate yourself, that's great, or my book will give you an excellent running start to start eliminating all the toxins in your life. Number 37, coffee. Now, I drank coffee, then I gave up coffee, then I drank coffee, then I gave up coffee, and I finally figured out why some people think coffee is really good for you and other people think it's not, and it really depends upon your body, so we're going to talk about this. I do drink coffee again, but it's a dirty crop, so I only drink organic coffee, and the brand that I drink is also very ecologically sound because they're very kind to the birds. Apparently a lot of coffee when it's harvested is killing all the birds in the area. So we'll talk about coffee in general. If you are a coffee drinker, you may not have to give it up, and I'll tell you why you might have to and what you can do so that you don't have to. Number 38, learn to practice some kind of mindfulness or meditation. You only need maybe 15 to 20 minutes a day where you just get quiet and go into yourself and relax and meditate. It is so good for your entire body to do this. So we'll talk about that. Number 39 is religious and spirituality. Whichever it is that you foster in your life, whether you are active in a church or whether you have a spiritual relationship with a greater source, which is where I am. I am a Christian, but I now have fostered my own relationship with the greater source. And a lot of times I get in touch with that by getting into nature. Whatever your way is, it is an important element to your mental stability and your physical health. So make sure you do something with religion or spirituality to keep yourself balanced. Number 40. Now, we talked about this a little bit, but I'm going to talk about it again. I actually published a gratitude and victory journal. And I believe so strongly in gratitude that we just talked about it as its own category for your health. But I also want you to start celebrating your daily victories. When I first came out of coaching school, people would ask me what I had accomplished lately. And I always felt like I hadn't accomplished anything, but I had already published 2 books. I had started my podcast. I was talking on Facebook often and doing presentations. I was speaking in the community, and I wasn't giving myself any credit for all of my victories. I think that women are particularly bad at that, although my husband tells me men are not much better. But every day when you practice gratitude, I also want you to list what your immediate victories have been, because there are things that you did that you need to give yourself credit for, and they're important for your long-term mental health and for where you're going long-term in your life. Number 41, sensitivity tests. I have mentioned them, maybe not in total depth. I'm going to go into them in total depth now. Regular conventional medical doctors believe in allergies, but not necessarily in sensitivities. Ends up, when I got to a functional doctor, I have 18 food sensitivities, and by eliminating them, was my first giant leap away from pain and back to a body that was happy with me. So we're going to talk about the difference between sensitivities and allergies and why it's important to get tested. There is another way to do it with an elimination diet. I didn't have the patience for that. I wanted to know what my sensitivities were. And it ends up, had I done an elimination diet, I probably would not have found a lot of my sensitivities, because a lot of my sensitivities are herbs of all things. But we're going to talk about that whole category because it is important to your long-term health. Number 42. This is another one from National Geographic's Blue Zones. They encourage us all to adopt a hobby of some sort, which is how we would relax. My husband has adopted hook rugging, and he thoroughly enjoys it. Now, that would make me jump out of my skin, but it's how he gets into his Zen zone and relaxes. And so, whatever your hobby is, you need to find it and you need to enjoy it. I want to go back to playing the piano. I took 9 years of piano lessons as a kid, and I want to get back into playing, and I'm going to play god awful when I start out, but I love to play music, and so that's what I'm going to adopt for 2022. If you don't adopt a hobby, join a group. Find a group that's passionate about something that you're passionate about, whether it's Sierra Club and keeping track of the trails in the area, whatever it is. Find something that you're passionate about and join a group with like-minded people. Number 43, never underestimate the importance of laughter and joy. Just get in the bathroom and look at yourself in the mirror and start to laugh. It's practically impossible to look in the mirror and laugh and not feel yourself start to giggle. And if you're hearing other people laughing, you're going to laugh and giggle at them too. Look for ways to find joy and laughter because that lifts your mood. It's great for your hormones, your feel-good hormones. It's great for your body all the way around. I have a category called additional thoughts, just things that I learned that didn't fit into any of these categories. And then I'm going to end up this series on supplements that you should be taking that are going to be good for your body. So let's go ahead and get started now that I've sort of given you the blueprint of where we're going. This is how to build great health in 2022. First one is a quote from Dan Buettner of the Blue Zones. Living longer and feeling better is the sum of a few small, easy choices that you can incorporate in your everyday life. Great health doesn't have to be elusive, and you have the power to create it in your own body and for your own family with your lifestyle habits. When I first started getting out into the community and speaking about what I learned, people would approach me and go, hey, it's all fine and well that you could reverse some of your pain, but the bottom line is I was dealt bad cards. I got bad genetics, and I have cancer in my family, and I have heart disease in my family, and I have this, and I have that. And nothing that you tell me or that I do is going to stop me from getting that. The bottom line is epigenetics has shown us that we are given a certain code in our genetics, but we have the ability to turn that switch on or with lifestyle changes to turn that switch off. So why do certain health problems run in certain families? Well, yeah, they got the same code. We know that. But they also probably adopted the same lifestyle habits. And it's the lifestyle habits that run in families that turn that switch on. So take back your power. You have the ability to adopt healthier habits, and your body will celebrate because it will let you know you're on the right track. My next quote is from How Not to Die from Heart Disease, which is a quote from Michael Greger, a doctor who wrote a book called How Not to Die. Love this book. If you want a good book, and he's got a great sense of humor, and you will learn unbelievable amounts of great things about health, I would pick up his book. But what his quote is the best kept secret in medicine is that sometimes, given the right conditions, the body can actually heal itself. One of the things I have learned is that medication, pharmaceuticals, we need them. I'm not saying we don't need them. So if your doctor wants you to go on them, there's a reason, because you've got some kind of symptom that they want that pharmaceutical to mitigate. But pharmaceuticals don't cure. You have the ability to change your lifestyle and impact the health of your body. So the body, under the right conditions, can heal itself. And Dr. Greger was a conventional doctor who believed everything that all the conventional doctors believe, and their number one source of information, as was his, was the pharmaceutical industry. But his grandmother got sick, and they gave her a matter of weeks to live, and she went and put herself in Pritikin, and they wheeled her in a wheelchair, and 6 weeks later she danced out, because eating a vegan diet changed the whole trajectory of her health, and she lived for many more years. And it got his attention so that he started studying what else was there so that he could better serve his patients. And that's what led to him writing How Not to Die. It's a great book. Okay, my next quote is from Blanche Sharif, a functional nutritionist from the Fatty Liver documentary group that I watched to do my Fatty Liver podcasts. Wellness comes within, not from pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals help control symptoms and are good short term, but they aren't changing overall wellness. You have the ability to do that with lifestyle. And what are those lifestyles? Those 45 things I just read to you that we're going to talk about in this podcast. And then finally, if you have chronic pain, what is the root cause? A pill will not make the root cause go away. The root cause, according to the functional community, by the way, is your gut. So you always start with healing your gut and doing the lifestyle changes that will give your gut the chance to heal. Everybody's goal should be to investigate and identify underlying factors causing chronic illness. These can include any of these issues: weight loss, hormonal imbalances, thyroid dysfunction, autoimmune disorders, cancer, digestive disorders, heart disease, diabetes, and fibromyalgia. Ultimately, the primary goal must be to incorporate healthy, everyday lifestyle practices that will balance your body. Disease is when your body goes out of balance. Identifying the cause will go a long way in helping change your response to any health issue. Conventionally trained physicians prescribe pharmaceutical drugs right away. So if you don't look into what the underlying cause is, drugs will never address whatever the root cause is of the problem. So I'm not saying don't take the pharmaceutical. Take it. It will help you mitigate whatever the problem is. But then work with your doctor to know what the markers are that you need to get to so that you start to bring yourself back to relative wellness. I have no pain today. 9 years ago, I had so much pain I almost couldn't get out of bed every morning. Changing my lifestyle changed my body and changed the trajectory of my health. So you have that power as well. Don't just stop at the pill. Keep looking for the underlying cause and work with your doctor to wean yourself back off that pharmaceutical so that your body supports itself on its own from healthy habits. Okay, now let's start at the top of the list. Build a supportive community that enjoys similar healthy habits. The concept of 3 degrees of separation. If you have a lot of people in your life, like the family that got all the same diseases because they were given the same code, so they all got the same disease because they all had the same lifestyle habits, then start to learn and become the influencer within your 3 degrees of separation. You're not going to force anybody to change with you because people need to make all their own decisions. But the very first woman who read my book got a lot of flack from her family that they didn't like it that she and her husband were starting to eat so healthy. She was grandma with a huge family that said Sunday dinner, and they didn't want all that healthy food. Well, today they're all eating healthy. And it happened when her husband got sepsis and almost died in the hospital. And the doctor came in to see him when he came out the other end and was getting healthy again and said, I never saw anybody recover from this ever in my life who had it as bad as you did. What is different about you from all my other patients? And he said, my wife has changed our lifestyle by changing how we eat and how we live and how we move. And so my immune system was able to fend it off. That's where I want you to go. I want you to adopt so many healthy habits that whether it's COVID-19 or something else, your immune system is strong enough to fend it off on its own. So be the influencer in your immediate community, and you'll start to attract other people with lifestyle habits that are healthy like the ones that you're wanting to adopt. Many of our friends were not as healthy when we first started out. They were unhealthy like we were unhealthy, but they have become healthier over time. And we now all share healthy tips and healthy habits and healthy recipes. So you can be the influencer and you can adopt new people into your circle that also have healthier habits. And if you start doing things like going to farmers markets, you're going to meet more people who have similar habits for a healthier lifestyle that you will incorporate into your life. Loneliness is a big issue, so it's important that you have a community around you, and that's why the Blue Zones feels that it's so important that you get a dog or a cat. You don't want to die of loneliness. Now, when I first got divorced 8 billion years ago, I went through terrible loneliness. And stupid me, I left all my friends in San Francisco behind and moved for a job to Portland, Oregon, where I knew absolutely no one, which only made my loneliness worse. What I discovered was, by fostering a relationship with myself, I eventually went through what I called an open window to an area where I loved alone time, but I was no longer lonely. Now, I did have pets, and pets certainly helped me get through the loneliness, but you also need to foster alone time, which is really healthy for you. So get a dog or a cat and then spend some quality time with you, on you, taking care of you, because having a strong sense of self and not being, I will probably never be lonely again because I have all kinds of things to do with my spare time if I ever am by myself, and I enjoy having some alone time to enjoy just with me. Number 3, heart disease is the #1 cause of death in America. So you gotta learn to eat for your future health. My Ditch the Sad and Stop Eating Crap class teaches you everything you need to know for your heart, your liver, your gut, your lower gut, your brain, your thyroid, your kidneys, your skin. It all interacts and is the same, because if you're eating real food and you're eating all the colors of the rainbow, all those phytonutrients, and there are now, they think somewhere between 25 and 50,000 of them, all those phytonutrients that the plants make get together and have a little party in your body and create health. And part of the health that they create is heart health. So I want to read you how to prevent heart disease because this is really how to create health at the same time. Eliminate sugar, soda, processed carbs, trans fats, processed meats, excess vegetable oils, which is the sad, sad diet. Eat more of these foods. Wild salmon, loaded with omega-3s, which are good for you. Berries and cherries, which are low in calories and high in antioxidants. Grass-fed meat, which means it's meat that the animal is eating his own specific diet. So a cow has 3 guts. So you want him to be eating grass because otherwise he's not using his 3 guts and he's not eating the way he's supposed to. Vegetables, preferably organic, nuts, beans, dark chocolate, garlic and turmeric, pomegranate juice, green tea and red wine, and extra virgin olive oil. Make these lifestyle changes to reduce stress. Meditate or practice deep breathing. I use the Dr. Andrew Weil 478 breathing exercise. Look it up on Google and learn to do it right with Dr. Weil. He's the father of integrative medicine, and it's a great exercise which resets your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your reptilian brain, and releases all the stress from your body. It's something that I do often, and I try to do it every morning and every afternoon to let the top off my stress so that I never reach that almost to Addison's disease point again. Express your emotions, move, play, laugh, cultivate intimacy and pleasure, and most of all, find ways to enjoy your life. These are all the things that are good for your heart. And this is from Johnny Bowden, who is another functional nutritionist. All of this above is also really good for your liver. An unhealthy liver is an unhealthy heart. And in addition to protect your liver, start to eliminate the toxins in your food, your self-care products, your cleaning products, your water, your air, everything, because a healthy liver is a healthy heart and they work together. Okay? How not to die from heart disease. From Michael Greger from How Not to Die. Most likely reason that our loved ones will die is heart disease. Hardening of the arteries begins in childhood. I found this kind of shocking. But since 54% of our children have chronic illness, maybe not so much. By age 10, the arteries of nearly all of our kids raised on the standard American diet already have fatty streaks in them, which is the first stage of heart disease. At 10 years old. So if anybody out there is watching this older than age 10, then the choice is not whether or not to eat healthy in order to prevent heart disease. It's whether or not you want to reverse the heart disease that you most likely already have started in your body. Food for thought. Okay, this is a quote from Johnny Bowden, functional nutritionist, on how to prevent heart disease. There is reliable and consistent research demonstrating that omega-3 fats, mainly from fish, lower the death rate from heart disease and lower the risk of sudden cardiac death. This is hardcore evidence that fish oil saves lives. So eat wild fish. We eat wild salmon at least once a week. We really enjoy it. Now, I don't eat a whole fish. I eat about the size of the palm of my hand. I have cut down on how much animal protein I eat because I want to be able to afford quality animal protein. Everything you put in your body should be the best because you're worth it. So it should be organic fruits and vegetables. It should be quality protein. Everything should be the best because food quality matters. Okay, another quote from Michael Greger on how not to die from heart disease. When researchers took people with heart disease and put them on a plant-based diet, followed by populations that did not get heart disease, their hope was that it might slow the disease process down and maybe even stop it. But instead, something absolutely miraculous happened. Heart disease started to reverse. it started to get better. As soon as the patients stopped eating artery clogging diets, their bodies were able to start dissolving some of the plaque away, opening up the arteries without drugs, without surgery, suggesting their bodies wanted to heal all along, but were just never given the chance. The improvement in blood flow to the heart muscle itself on the left was after just 3 weeks of eating healthy. 3 weeks of eating organic fruits and vegetables started to reverse heart disease. Now, that's a pretty strong statement. And remember, he's a conventional doctor who used to believe only in prescribing prescriptions. So he became a believer because of his grandmother. And I want you to give it a try, because let your body convince you that he's correct, because it will. Okay, another quote from Johnny Bowden on the heart. Processed carbohydrates include almost any carbohydrate food that comes in a package. Cereals, pasta, bread, minute rice, you name it. These foods are always high glycemic, meaning they quickly and dramatically raise your blood sugar, which then eventually creates heart problems. This one is also from Johnny Bowden. Even borderline deficiencies of magnesium can negatively affect the heart. And not surprisingly, there is a considerable amount of evidence associating low levels of magnesium with cardiovascular disease. There's also new research out that your magnesium needs vitamin D. Remember that thing I want you to get outside and into the sun and maybe take a supplement for? Vitamin D and magnesium work together because they party when they get together and allow each other to do over 325 different enzyme reactions in the body. And your heart needs them both. So make sure every time you go to the doctor, you get your magnesium and your vitamin D levels checked. They need each other, and they both need to be at the high level that they should be at. And then one more from Blanche Sharif, the functional nutritionist who was part of the liver group. Want good vitamin D levels? There's evidence that our bodies cannot metabolize vitamin D efficiently without magnesium. That's what I was just talking about. This means vitamin D remains stored and inactive for at least 50% of Americans because they don't have the magnesium in their bodies to allow them to process their vitamin D. The problem with vitamin D supplements is it can increase a person's calcium and phosphate levels while they even remain vitamin D deficient. So if you're taking vitamin D and you don't have ample amounts of magnesium in your body, it's creating an imbalance for calcium and phosphorus, and it's not giving you the boost that your vitamin D should be giving you. Taking vitamin D supplements without realizing how it gets metabolized is not useful and may not even be safe. It's estimated that more than half the population is consuming a magnesium deficient diet. Magnesium is the fourth most abundant mineral in the human body after calcium, potassium, and sodium. Foods high in magnesium include almonds, bananas, beans, broccoli, brown rice, cashews, egg yolk, fish oil, flaxseed, green vegetables, milk, mushrooms, and other nuts, oatmeal, pumpkin seeds, they're loaded by the way, sesame seeds, soybeans, but be careful, 95% of them are genetically modified, so you're getting them with Bt toxin, so make sure they're organic soybeans, sunflower seeds, sweet corn, tofu, same GMO issue, and whole grains. Low magnesium intakes are linked to greater risks for accelerated aging. I don't know about you, but I kind of like to stay as young as possible, as long as I can. Diabetes, metabolic syndrome, chronic inflammation, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, sudden cardiac death, osteo, migraine headache, asthma, and other chronic conditions. So make sure that you have your MD check your magnesium and your vitamin D levels when you go next, and ask him to do the new cholesterol test for LDL particle size. What you want him to take is the small particle LDL test, because that's the kind of cholesterol that's dangerous. You need the other cholesterols. Every cell in your body needs cholesterol. So you don't need the bad cholesterol, which is this little particle LDL. You need the good cholesterol for your brain cells and for the skin or the surrounding tissue of each cell in your body. It needs cholesterol so that it can be the doorway for getting nutrients and things in and out of the cells. The heart responds to what we feel. So you have a reduced risk to your heart if you're optimistic, if you have a sense of purpose, if you're happy, if you're mindful, if you have more emotional vitality, and if you have psychological well-being. Okay? Important to practice gratitude and to practice giving yourself credit for what you've achieved and having that sense of optimism every day when you start and that sense of purpose. Increase risk to your heart. Depression, anxiety, stress of all types, isolation and loneliness, pessimism, anger, and hostility. If you're a person with a lot of pent-up anger and hostility, simple things are going to release that through your day. Make sure you get rid of it. It's not doing you any good of any kind, and it's actually doing your heart harm. So stay on the positive side of life and write it out. And if you're having negative thoughts, write them down until you can argue them away, because they don't bring you any positive benefits, which means they're not bringing your heart anything good either. And then there are two final things that are really good for your heart. The first one is kindness. Do good for others because it comes back in unexpected ways. Witnessing acts of kindness and being kind actually produces oxytocin in your brain, occasionally referred to as the love hormone. And that simple human act of kindness has numerous health benefits. It can help you experience fewer aches and pains. It can lower your blood pressure. It can protect your heart twice as much as an aspirin. I'm not saying don't take your aspirin if your doctor has you on it, but start practicing random acts of kindness every day because that will have an even greater impact on you. It dilates your blood vessels so that your heart actually receives more oxygen, either as a giver or as a receiver. Your cardiovascular system improves with kindness. It's cardioprotective. Kindness actually literally protects your heart. It strengthens your immune system. It improves your energy. It has the ability to lead to a longer lifespan. And if ever there was a season for this, it's now. And if ever there was a time for it, it's now. We have unleashed a lot of anger in our population. So I want you, no matter who you're around or what their attitude towards life is, to overlook whatever that is and practice kindness with that person. And make it a game. I used to be a store manager for a department store. And when I used to have people who were ranting and raving about something that had gone wrong and they wanted to talk to the store manager to get it fixed, I used to play a game of how long would it take me to turn that person's attitude around. And because I looked at it, that it was something that was possible, it didn't take me very long. And that person knew I was listening to them, knew that I heard them, knew that I was going to do something to make the situation better, and their level of anger and frustration came right down, and by the time they left, we were best friends, and they wanted to know if I would have lunch with them. You can do it. It's good for your heart. It's good for your brain. It's good for your body. Okay? We're right at an hour, so I think I'm going to start here and start with number 4, which is optimal liver health, which is directly connected to your heart health in the next podcast. But I gave you an overview of all the things I want you to pay attention to for your health in my opening segment, because it's all important. We spend a lot of time on food, and God knows I think food is critical. I think it's foundational to health, but all 45 things that I mentioned are an important component to your body and your life for you to find health and happiness and live long and thrive. and I'm about to have my 73rd birthday, and I feel better than I did in my 50s, even though I have autoimmune disease. I no longer have the pain that the disease brought to me, and I'm feeling pretty darn good, and I want the same for you, which is why I do these podcasts, okay? So adopt these habits into your life. Take the power back. You have the power. Adopt these habits and own your body and have a great and fabulous life. And we'll start next week on liver health. Thank you. I'll see you then. Hello, could I see a show of hands if there's anybody out there like me who's tried to lose weight their whole life and not been successful? So you've tried all the different diets available. You've tried Weight Watcher. You've tried Jenny Craig. You've tried all the New York Times bestsellers. And the last time you did it, you started off great, just like all the other times. And you started losing weight, and then all of a sudden you fell off the horse. And before you know it, you're eating fast food and processed food again with all that sugar, and you don't even know why. And in the end, you've gained more weight than where you started out. So you now are beating yourself up that you just don't have the willpower to win. If that's you, I want to address the elephant in the room, because 9 years ago, I got autoimmune disease and started researching because I didn't want the pain that came with the autoimmune disease, and the added benefit was I lost the weight along the way. So let me tell you what happens. Big Food doesn't want you to win. They've rigged the system. They've put so many chemicals into fast food and processed food that they light up the brain like a pinball machine. It's the same part of the brain that goes off for cocaine and heroin, and you feel great when you eat that food, but it's not making you feel good, and you're starving your body for nutrition because it's loaded with empty calories, so you're getting fat eating that food, and it's not giving your body what you need. And it's turning off all your own feel-good hormones of serotonin and dopamine and even your insulin, which keeps your moods even. But worse than that, there's two little hormones here at the back of your neck called ghrelin and leptin, and they don't work, and they regulate your appetite because all those chemicals have subdued them, so you don't even know when you're full. So what did I learn to do instead? I'm eating the GLAD diet, loaded with all the phytonutrients that my body needs to be healthy and to thrive and to boost my immune system and to ditch the pain. And along the way of eating all this live food, I lost 60 pounds without dieting. You see, I was starving my body for nutrition when I was eating the standard American diet, and now that I'm giving my body all those beautiful phytonutrients, it's not holding on to it anymore, so it's just dropping it automatically. So don't eat the standard American diet. I don't want you to get a standard American disease, and I certainly don't want you to die the standard American death. Instead, start eating the GLAD diet, because by eating all those beautiful phytonutrients, you will be healthier and you will live long and thrive. Thank you.